Welcome to the Bluejays Persevere Creighton Men's Basketball Courtside Countdown. I hope that all of you are well, but I suspect that each of you, like each of us in athletics, are dealing with the complications of life caused by the spread of COVID-19. It has been a year unlike any other in our history. I'm extremely proud of the work that is being done by our coaches and staff and student athletes to ensure the health and safety of all. We are working diligently to continue teaching, coaching, and caring for our student athletes. While this virtual courtside countdown will give you some insight into this year's men's basketball team, the focus needs to be on you and the dynamic impact you have had on Creighton University athletics. Virtually every one of our almost 300 student athletes are on some sort of financial aid, provided with your assistance. Some of them are first-generation students. Some are students of color, but the majority of them could not be at Creighton without your assistance. And while one of the goals of our coaches is to improve each student who is an athlete to the best of their abilities and desires individually and as a part of a team, if we're only doing this, we are not fulfilling the mission of Creighton. We also work very hard at teaching them how to think and how to become better leaders in their families, in their businesses, and in their communities. The multi-generational impact of this process is amazing and could not be done without you. I don't believe that we fully understand the dynamic impact we can have on others. In most successful families and businesses and communities, it is often those that are not in the spotlight that determine success because of their faithfulness, their dedication, and their loyalty. This is true of Creighton Athletics. We have been successful because of your faithfulness, your dedication, and your loyalty. One of the values of athletics is that the inconceivable is conceived and then achieved. We can do so much more than we thought we could, both individually and as a part of a team. I want to give you several examples of this with Creighton Athletics. Our men's soccer program has qualified for the NCAA soccer tournament 24 times in the past 26 years and has advanced to 14 Sweet 16s, 11 Elite Eights, and 5 College Cups, playing for the national championship in 2000. The inconceivable being conceived and then achieved. Our women's volleyball team, coached by 3-time National Coach of the Year Kirsten Bernthal Booth, has qualified for the NCAA tournament 9 times in the past 10 years, with 2 Sweet 16s and 1 Elite Eight appearance. And in the past 6 years, our Big East Conference record is an amazing 102-6, 102 wins and only 6 losses in the past 6 years in Big East play. The inconceivable being conceived and then achieved. In men's basketball, 20 years ago, who would have conceived that we would not only be a member of the best basketball conference in the country, the Big East, with games every year against Georgetown, Villanova, St. John's, Providence, Marquette, Connecticut, Xavier, and the rest of the Big East teams. Who would have conceived that we would be playing in a state-of-the-art facility in the CHI Arena, which holds over 18,000 fans, and that we would be in the top 10 every year in the country in fans attending our home games? Just this past year, we averaged 17,314 fans, trailing only Syracuse, Kentucky, North Carolina, and Tennessee, creating one of the best basketball environments in the country. The inconceivable being conceived and then achieved. And speaking of the inconceivable being conceived and then achieved, let's look closer at the 2019-2020 men's basketball season. Who would have conceived that we would not only win the Big East regular season championship, dominating national number 8 Seton Hall on the final day of the regular season? Who would have conceived that we would be 3-0 against teams ranked in the top 10 in the country, and that we would have 6 wins against teams ranked in the top 25? Who would have conceived that we would have 2 players receive All-American recognition in Marcus Zagorowski and Tyshawn Alexander? Who would have conceived that we would have the Big East Coach of the Year and in some publications the National Coach of the Year? And who would have conceived that we would finish the year ranked number 7 in the country, and we would have been a number 2 or number 3 seed in the NCAA tournament? The inconceivable being conceived and then achieved. I ask all of you to raise a glass to toast the 2019-2020 men's basketball team as a result of their 2019-2020 men's basketball accomplishments. I could give you many, many other examples, but with all of them, the message is the same. This simply could not be done without you and your willingness to make a commitment to us. Your commitment is critical, not only to us being able to successfully operate a quality Division I athletics program, but also in helping our student athletes understand the dynamic impact that they can have on others in their lives by their willingness to make a commitment to others. Although the pandemic has created an extremely challenging time right now for all of us, we are looking forward to watching college basketball in the very near future. Our young men are excited to have an opportunity to again compete on the national stage and finish what many of them feel was unfinished business in March. I am anxious to hear Coach McDermott give you an update on this year's Blue Jay team, and again, thank you for your past commitment and ask for your continued support. Now I'm going to turn it over to Coach Greg McDermott and Fox Sports analyst Steve Lavin for an all-access update on the season.
Coach Lav, it's great to see you, my friend. I appreciate you taking the time to join us and talk some hoops with me, with all of our fans listening tonight. And I want to start out with a toast to you and thank you for taking the time to join us. I owe you dinner for this. When the next time we're together, the dinner's on me. Now, if you'll recall, last time we had dinner, it was on the heels of Dollar Beer Night, when you were live in person in Omaha. You were shooting the t-shirt gun. I'm not sure if you recall that dinner, because I think you actively were partaking in the festivities that went with Dollar Beer Night. But we had a good time. You ordered some really expensive wine. But here's to you, my friend. That was an awesome night, and we're glad that you were able to get with us today.
Cheers, and thanks for allowing me to participate, and nice to reflect back on the Dollar Beer Night. I do remember counting the kegs late, just in terms of inventory, and then being on the full scholarship that night, the Creighton Blue Jay full scholarship, and thankfully Rasmussen signed off, and there were no violations as a result of that entertainment. But here's a little Japanese whiskey, just mixing it up. Instead of beer, I figure we do something original. So,
well, tell me, the pandemic and obviously. It's obviously changed our world from a coaching perspective and a playing perspective, but obviously it's had a huge impact on what you're able to do. And as you look forward to the season, like, what does this look like for you, and what have you been doing since March when the world changed?
Yeah, I was actually at the Pac-12 conference tournament, and was going to begin broadcasting, I think, on the second day of the Pac-12 conference tournament. Of course, it shut down the morning of that second day of competition, and so came back to San Francisco. I haven't been on a plane since. The furthest travel for us was to Mill Valley, which is just north of Golden Gate Bridge, and then we went up to Sonoma for a week of wine tasting and getting some walks in up there in the Sonoma Valley. So it's dramatic in terms of how it has affected our lives. Grateful to be healthy and just, paying attention to the guidelines. And we were fortunate here in San Francisco, got out in front in terms of, really being thoughtful and taking all the preventative measures to try and contain the spread of the virus. And you just, adapt and adjust. That's the interesting element, right? Out of necessity, just like this evening, utilizing technology as a way to engage your fan base and Blue Jay fans that want to get an update and participate in a season kickoff type of event like this. And here we're doing it, in different locations in terms of with a laptop, and it wasn't easy. I'm kind of old school baby boomer. So when it comes to technology and laptops and all the bells and whistles and whatnot. So this is really kind of remarkable, trailblazing for me. This is really happening right now. So, so far, so good. Hopefully we can finish strong.
Yeah, we're doing great. And, I've talked to the team a bunch, Lav. Like, I think this is going to be a year of being able to adapt and adjust, as you said. I think it's going to be very different. It's already been different, and we'll talk about that in a little bit. But I've told the team over and over, like, we have to figure out a way to do different better than everybody else, because everybody's going to run into that. And obviously having some veteran leadership on our team helps with that. But how does it impact you moving forward? Like, we're going, we're practicing with mask on. We're probably, we're going to play in front of limited fans or no fans some of the games. But from an analyst standpoint, and your life, as it usually is from November to March, where you're traveling all over the country, working in the studio, doing games from the Big East to the Pac-12. Like, how do you foresee it impacting you, and what have they kind of told you at this point?
Well, by now we, in past years, would have the schedule laid out. And so one element that's new is because each day we gain more information, it's been important to be nimble, be flexible. And again, some of the traits, characteristics, the attributes that we try and instill in our players and our teams really is the same in these other businesses. And so in broadcasting, we'll now do more from studios. In other words, there'll be games where we hold back the talent and have them working out of our Los Angeles studios or out of Charlotte, where we also utilize some studios and produce games, direct games, as well as the talent, the play-by-play and the analyst will be in Charlotte or in Los Angeles, even though the game's going to be happening at UConn or at Creighton. So that's one adjustment. There'll be times where everything's happening from those studios. Cameras controlled, obviously, some kind of robotically, and then there may be some where they're actually cameramen there on site, shooting the game, shooting the action, and then throwing it back to studio, where traditionally the majority of the time, for pregame, halftime, between games, post-game shows are done out of studios anyway. Now, we did on occasion travel to the site, like a game day in college football. We did that in basketball some. This year, you may see less of that naturally, because we're trying to cut down travel and streamline the logistics in an effort to just make prudent, intelligent choices because of this pandemic. And so I'd be curious, because you were boots on the ground, so to speak, in the Garden, in the Big East tournament, with a team that had momentum, that could win a national championship, definitely a Final Four contender, and looking at a very high seed, given what you did during the regular season. What was that like as a coach? As a broadcaster, I'm sitting back in terms of realizing we not get to participate as a broadcaster, but as a coach with a team that had a head of steam going in. What was that like?
Yeah, you were sitting back drinking your Japanese whiskey, weren't you?
No pressure. Yeah. Yeah. More
This
experience.
is easy. Yeah. But when it went down, obviously we had a full Garden for the games on Wednesday night. So it was packed over there. And then to get word later that evening that there were going to be limited fans for Thursday's games, and that in itself was something that was hard to kind of get your arms around. And then when we walked into the Garden for warm-ups, and there's 250, 300 people in this place, that's we're accustomed as coaches, like, here's what the Garden is like, here's the environment, such enthusiasm and magic in that place when it's full. But to see so few people there. And then I remember talking to the referee right before the game, because it kind of held it up a minute or two. And he's like, I think they're trying to decide whether we're going to tip. And of course, being the giver that I am, like, I went to bat for you to get you here for beer night and do your little yeah, full scholarship. I told the referee, if it means you getting your paycheck, go throw the jump ball. I'm good with that. We can call it after that. If that's what it takes for it to be a played game for you three referees, you got to keep those guys on your side, Lav. You know how that works. But it was really surreal to play in that building with such few fans and hear really every sound. And then when we walked off at halftime, our associate AD said, I think we're done. And, so my message to the team was at that time, the team wanted to stay in New York for 6 or 7 hours. A lot of their families had flown in. They wanted to spend time with them. So I said, all right, we'll fly out at 7 tonight. So you got some time. Go have some lunch with your family. We'll get back to Omaha. We'll take a day off, and then we'll begin our preparation for the NCAA tournament. The one thing I really regret, and I don't know if there's a way that this could have been done in a different way. I wish I could have given the message to the team that the NCAA tournament was canceled. Because as you remember, that came that Wednesday afternoon about 3 or 4 o'clock. So our guys saw it on social media at the same time that we did, and at the same time that everybody else did. So we never really had that moment, at the end of the season in the locker room together. Only one team wins the last game, but you reflect and you talk about a lot of the good things that happened. And we never got a chance to experience that because we shifted our focus from, all right, we're not going to play an NCAA tournament. Are these airports going to stay open? We need to get as many guys home from New York as we possibly can rather than taking them back to Omaha and then risking maybe they can't get home. So our team really scattered to different parts of the country, and we didn't bring them back till August. So we never had that opportunity to really celebrate what was a very good season. There aren't any Big East Championship T-shirts floating around Omaha because everybody left, and so that's my one regret, that our guys didn't get to walk around campus, get patted on the back, congratulations on a great year, have the postseason banquets that go with that, and then for our, we only had the 2 seniors, Jordan Scurry and Kelvin Jones, that didn't have the opportunity to experience the NCAA tournament as a senior. And you build towards the end of the season. You're trying to play your best basketball at the end of the year, and our guys were. Well, we were playing as good as anybody in the country at that time. And you want to be able to see what would happen in the NCAA tournament when you've got a team playing at a high level. So the fact that we didn't get to experience that, we didn't really have that ending to the season that comes in the locker room where you celebrate the seniors and you talk about what you accomplished. That didn't really take place till the guys got back here in August.
Yeah, when you reflect back, before we look forward to the upcoming season and your personnel and the changes and things that you anticipate as best you can with some of the uncertainty that's in play. But looking back, the final home game against Seton Hall, and that is the clincher, right, to get the 1 seed, basically be the champion, even though there was a 3-way tie. But I think based on the tie-breaking formula, you guys have it in head-to-head competition against the top of the league. Just reflect back on that final game, because that was special from start to finish, and I imagine in the locker room and the few days of euphoria before you headed to New York, and also just some thoughts on the group. Beginning with that evening that was made, obviously that final game against Seton, but also your thoughts on the whole team and what they accomplished and achieved.
Yeah, and I think back to our game at Seton Hall, and I remember it because I just talked to our team about it last week. We sat in the locker room, and sometimes, as you know, in the locker room before the game, there's a lot of coach speak and a lot of cliches. But I was honest with the team. We were 3 games back out of first place at that time, and we're at Seton Hall, who's playing as good as anybody in the country. And I just said, guys, if we want to have an opportunity to win this league, we can't let them get 4 games ahead. We have to get within 2. And then I think we can get on a roll and we can continue to improve, and we have a chance to make some noise down the stretch. And that was an unbelievable game and an unbelievable win. And as you know from all your years in coaching, you never know if you're going to have an opportunity, last home game of the year, for a conference title. That doesn't ever come together for a lot of players and a lot of coaches. You just never are in that situation. And then you hope that when you get in that situation, are you ready for it? And I found out a couple things that night. Number one, our team was ready, and number two, our fan base was ready. Like it was an unbelievable environment from 7 or 8 minutes before the game to the post-game celebration and everything that went with it. Nobody left that building at the end of the game. They all stayed and celebrated. The Big East champion banner was dropped down, and confetti and everything that goes with it. So, that is a lasting memory that I think our guys will have, that team will have, that you can't ever take away from them. And really, it's the last memory of a season. And generally speaking, as we talked about before, usually NCAA tournament, unless you're the national champion, there's some disappointment to end the season. And I think our guys look at that Seton Hall game as kind of the end of what was a really good season, an incredible celebration on the floor with our fans, and really a special group that bought into one another, that understood that if we're going to be successful, it's going to be a little different than how other people do it. We have to share the basketball. We've got to move the basketball defensively. We have to be connected because we're not blessed with a lot of size, so we have to be in the right place and do the right things. And it all culminated in just an incredible night that I know I'll never forget. I know everybody in our locker room appreciated and will never forget. And I think it's one of those moments as a fan that, hey, I remember where I was sitting that night. When Tyshawn Alexander hit kind of the clincher from the top of the key with about a minute and a half left to put him out of reach, I think everybody remembers exactly what they were doing, and those are memories that nobody can ever take away from us.
Yeah, would you say that some of the challenges in prior years, where there were some injuries and some tough luck, led to a more mature outlook in terms of your team last season, just dealing with that adversity and how that creates what sounds cliche or coach speak when we say character, or kind of the fiber, the makeup of a team, the character of a team? Because that's what I saw on display, not only in the late stage of the season, where you were able to come from 3 back to win the conference, but even within games, you would see that resilient spirit, and the punchback, the comebacks were on display.
Yeah, and the way we play, Lav, our hope is that we can hit you with a 10-0 run at some point because of our pace, and can we wear into the opponent. So, we don't, we talked to our team about, don't ever let your opponent see you sweat. They don't need to think we're nervous. They don't need to think we're shook. It's a long game, and most of the game is a bunch of 4-minute segments that usually a team you tie with the other team, you win by 2, they win by 2, but who can take advantage of a 4-minute segment and go on that run and put a game away? And that team had the ability to do that. And to your point about the injuries, we had a couple good teams in the past that were really devastated by a pretty serious injury at the wrong time of the year. Losing Maurice Watson when we were 18-1, his senior year. Martine Krompel the next year. We're rolling along, top 25 team. He tears his ACL, and it's in January. It's hard for coaches, number one, to regroup at that time of the year and try to figure out different ways. I think it's more difficult for players, because all of a sudden overnight, roles have changed significantly, and you probably have to play a little different than you played before. Last year, Jacob Epperson's injury, while it was severe and devastating to our team, because we really felt like with him and Kelvin Jones and Christian Bishop, we really had something special in the front line. But it happened in October, and as hard as that was to help Jacob through that and see his teammates and how they felt for Jacob and how awful they felt, we had time to kind of re-grease the wheels in terms of, okay, how do we have to change for this team to be successful without Jacob? And we had some time to prepare for that. And then you adjust and you tweak as the season went on. But, this has been a pretty resilient group. They don't spend a lot of time getting caught up in themselves when they're successful. and then they don't spend much time when we're not successful. Let's treat it very much the same as a win. Let's learn from it, figure out why did we win, and how can we use that to help us the next game. But don't treat a loss any different. Why did we lose? What went wrong? What do we have to fix? Wipe the slate. Let's go to the next game. And I think, as coaches, we always say next play. Get to the next play. But we want our players to do that. I think sometimes we as coaches treat a win very different than a loss. And I would like to think that the day after one of our games in practice, you can't tell whether we won the game or lost the game based on my interaction with the team. And I think from a leadership standpoint, if you do that, I think your guys buy into that. As we've moved along in the league, this league truly, while everybody has things that they want to do individually, the decisions that are made with the league's best interest in mind. And, I think our coaches have really bought into that. I think the league leadership's done a great job of that, certainly the administrators across the league. But, for Creighton, it's been awesome. It's been awesome for our fan base. It's certainly helped our recruiting, to be in a league that's a basketball-centric league that is as well-respected as the Big East is. So, it's certainly brought a lot of value to us. We'd like to think we've brought some value to the Big East as well, and I think Butler and Xavier, the other two newcomers with us, have done the same. And now we've got UConn joining, which, I know Danny Hurley, I played against his teams. They beat us in the NCAA tournament when he was at Rhode Island, so I'm well aware of how hard his teams compete, how they execute offensively. But I guess, Lav, you would have a perspective on UConn from your days. I think UConn won an NCAA championship in maybe your first year at St. John's. What do you think for our fans' perspective that don't know a lot about UConn, what do you feel like they bring to the table?
Well, I think for starters, you've got, a blue blood, even though relatively speaking, they're not a blue blood in terms of going back 100 years like a Kansas or an Indiana, a Kentucky, and North Carolina, or 60 or 70 years like UCLA. But when you consider what Jim Calhoun built in Storrs, Connecticut, and obviously Gino on the women's side has done the same. But I'd, build the case that what Jim Calhoun did is as remarkable as any coaching achievement or feat in the history of college basketball, because Storrs, Connecticut, prior to his arrival, no one could have imagined, 5, 6 Final Fours, 4 national championships, maybe 3 himself outright, but Kevin Ollie took over. So in a way, Coach Calhoun had his fingerprints on that 4th national championship. What Tarkanian built in the desert was pretty remarkable, because if you look at UNLV prior to his arrival, Lute Olson in Arizona, they'd be in the discussion. And that's not to say that, what the traditional blue bloods, success and achievement at Kansas or North Carolina or, Duke, Kentucky, those schools, Indiana, very special. But so number one with Connecticut, I think you have great tradition and heritage, which helps the whole league in that high tide rises all ships approach, because they're marquee. And then I think from a recruiting standpoint, when you're playing a team like UConn twice a year, that's exposure in that area to potential recruits that may not end up signing with UConn, but may love the way Creighton plays, or Butler, or someone else in the conference, Marquette. And now that kid wants to go to that school, come back home and beat UConn. And I experienced that a lot at UCLA, because you only had 13 scholarships, but you got such a fertile kind of recruiting ground. A lot of kids who would get away would come back, come into Pauley and have that magic level kind of performance. And then, of course, all week you'd hear on talk radio and Letters the Editor and on that, why didn't we recruit him? It's like, oh yeah, well, by the way, the kids we have are pretty good. You can't sign the whole region. But so then I think obviously Hurley as a quality basketball coach, I think he fits the makeup of the league in terms of his style. As the son of a coach, obviously his father, a Hall of Fame high school coach at St. Anthony's, where he had tremendous success, and his brother Bobby, a legend in his own right, doing well at Arizona State. So I like the fact it's a basketball family, and good bloodlines there. and it's going to lead to some great matchups. I mean, just as a fan and as a broadcaster, even doing a UConn Creighton game, a UConn St. John's game, you've got the old rivalries and then these new kind of interesting rivalries that are going to start up as a result of UConn coming into the league. So I think it's a real plus for the conference, and something our fans will look forward to watching. You know, what teams are returning and newcomers that we'll just have to see in terms of whether they live up to the hype coming out of high school or transfers and whatnot. Give us your kind of racing form of the Big East Conference and how this is going to play out to the best of your ability.
Emotional minefield. Yeah, like you didn't get that past me. Like every time I talk to you, Lav, I become a little bit more intelligent. Like, and you know, it's just like you pair a couple words together that none of us have ever heard paired together before, and it's just
It almost,
I mean,
it almost sounds like oxymorons, right? Emotional and minefield. We don't usually connect those, but
no, they don't. But you found a way, and you. Well, back to the Big East. It's, you know, obviously it's terrific again this year. You know, last year was outstanding, and you know, Villanova loses Sadiq Bey, but really returns everybody else. You know, I think Providence has a really good group back. You know, David Duke, I think, and does so much for them, and we had a hard time guarding him last year. And you know, certainly UConn, what they bring to the table, the way they finished last year. But right on down the roster, you know, Seton Hall's got enough left on that roster. Marquette has added a couple really good pieces. You know, Butler is always Butler. You know, it's hard to score. They're not going to beat themselves. And you know, I think Mike Anderson's done a good job at St. John's trying to you know, build the program with the pressure in the full court that makes that a really difficult place to play. So, you know, I just think across the board, Xavier's going to be good again. I think the league is really, really going to be good, and it's going to be different because part of the experience of the Big East is going and playing in front of great fan bases and you know, experiencing the atmosphere that comes with that. And you know, I think most coaches would tell you, you know, I think we'd rather there were fans on the road. You know, I think it's easier to focus when that whole crowd is against you. You know, like it's in those huddles, like you've got all the eyeballs on you and all the eyeballs on the leader of the team who's talking, because you've got 12,000 people that are against you, and it's just us versus the world at this moment. And I don't think we're going to experience that to this level this year, at least early in the season. But the league's going to be terrific again. There's really good coaches, and really through this pandemic, you know, it's really forced us as coaches to get on Zoom calls, to talk about issues that we're having on our campuses, solutions that we've come up with that we can help other programs with. So I think it's really formed a different kind of bond, and I know I've gotten the opportunity to get to know the other coaches on a different level because of the amount of Zoom calls that we've had with each other, the text messages back and forth, you know, trying to figure out how are we going to navigate through this? What's the best path? And unfortunately, there's no easy answer. And, you know, that's what our administrators across the league are trying to figure out. And, you know, we have to make sure that whatever decisions are made are made with the safety and health and well-being of anybody that's part of that basketball program, your home team and your visiting team, and with any fans that are going to be in the building and the people at the scores table, the referees. Like, you know, what steps do we have to take to ensure their safety? And that has to be 1A and 1B, and then we can figure out the rest of the stuff after that. So I know there's a lot of people that are fortunately much more intelligent than I am trying to figure that out. And we're just hopeful that we can have some type of a normal season that all of our fans will enjoy. It might not be a situation where we can have thousands of fans in our arena to watch us, but hopefully they can stay connected, you know, watching us on television, watching you call games, and stay connected that way. And we've got, you know, Lab, we've got a few new guys that I just want to talk to our fans about that I'm excited about. Ryan Kalkbrenner, 7-footer, you know, from St. Louis, I think has a real chance to help our team this year. Was one of the best shot blockers in the country when we recruited him. And he's been a pleasant surprise. As you know, big guys usually take a little bit more time, and you know, we're not as smart as the average bird, and I can say that from experience. But Ryan has picked up everything amazingly quick. He's all ears. He listens. He's got an incredible work ethic, and I think because of that, anytime big guys have that combination of listening skills and working skills, I think you see their progress come in a relatively quick manner. So we're excited about him. Jacob Epperson's back on the floor, practicing some, looking good. So I'm hoping that that three-headed monster that I talked about last year can actually exist this year with Christian Bishop and Epperson and Kalkbrenner. And then Antoine Jones is the other newcomer, transfer from Memphis, 6'6", 230 pounds. Really can get to the basket. Really has improved his ability to shoot the basketball compared to his numbers at Memphis, and I think he's improved his shot selection. And we're just trying to get him to really buy into the way that we want to play. It was interesting. We played them in the NIT the year he decided to leave Memphis. And when I called his dad the first time to introduce myself, his dad said, "It's interesting that you would call me because the night that you beat Memphis in the NIT, my son called me and said, why can't I play for someone like Creighton that plays like that and moves the basketball?" Which, for Antoine, was the worst thing I've ever heard for his sake, because every time he starts throwing it all over the gym or taking a quick shot, I can say, remember that you wanted to play like we play. So, we're going to have to knock some of this stuff out of you, and you've got to buy into ball movement, making that extra pass. But he's getting better every day, and we had Denzel Mahoney, kind of an X factor off the bench last year that was he comes in the game how are we going to guard him? He's physical on the block. He can get down there and he can get fouled. He can step out and shoot three-point shots. He's good off the dribble. I think Antoine can give us kind of that change up. Guy comes in and throws the ephus off the mound, so a little totally different look off the bench that's different than the guys that we have on the floor. So, we're really excited about that. And as I said earlier, really excited about what the seniors have done, what the upperclassmen have done, the progress that Marcus and Mitch and Damian and Denzel have made in the offseason, Christian's made in the offseason. So it has us really excited for this season.
But speak to that challenge of now having depth and what you guys are going to try and do to make it all work, given you've got a bigger rotation.
Yeah, and to your point, it was one of the reasons last year, Lav, that we were able to have success, because the roles were really specifically designed. And really the challenge that we had was when Denzel became eligible at the semester, how do we fit him into a team that's kind of already functioning? And that required some changes by everybody involved. Guys that were on the floor were getting a few less shots because Denzel's been added to the mix. So that took a little bit of time, but we figured that out, and I think we will this year. We still, because we did it last year, I think that ability to go small certainly still exists for short periods of time. See if we catch somebody off guard, and while they're trying to decide what to do, can we hit them with a run with a small lineup? I think it'll solve itself. Jacob Epperson still recovering from a major surgery, so his ability to play probably more than 10 to 15 minutes a game probably doesn't exist right now. So I think that will help with that part of it. Sharif Mitchell's done a great job in the offseason of developing his game, and I think we can use him obviously as a backup to Marcus, but we can also slide Marcus to the two some and play the two of them together. And then Antoine Jones, I think, is the one right now, along with Jet Canfield, who's Mr. Madison Square Garden for his performance of the game that never was last year against St. John's. Jet had 8 points at halftime off the bench for us. Those guys have to be ready. They have to embrace the role. They have to accept the role. And then you have to be mature enough to understand if something happens, have you prepared yourself for your role to change? And, to Jet Canfield's credit last year, he probably wasn't part of the rotation at the start of the year, but as we had injuries, he got thrown in there some, and he was ready to go. He made the most out of his opportunity, and he impacted winning. So, we'll figure that all out. I think because of the pandemic and potential guys getting pulled out and into quarantine, I think the last thing we're thinking about is having too many guys. I think we're all worried about are we going to have enough? But it's going to be a fun season, and Lav, our our fan base, the people that are listening tonight that have supported us over and over, you've seen it firsthand as a coach, and it's incredible, how they continue to sort of support our program through good times and bad. And, I remember our second year in the league, after Doug's group graduated, we got off to a rough start. We were 0-8 in Big East play. We came home to play Butler on a Monday or Tuesday night, 8:15 start. Butler was not nationally ranked, and we had 18,000 people in the building. And, that doesn't happen anywhere else when you start 0-8 in the conference. So, it speaks to, what we have and the people that we have in this community and the way that they supported us. And let's be honest, this is going to be a different year for everybody. It's a challenging year for athletic departments all across the country, just like it is for bars and restaurants and hotels and small businesses. Like, we have to find a way to work together to help each other survive. And, we're going to need our fan base more than ever this year to step up and say, we support you. We'd love to be at the games. If we can come to the games, we'll be there. If we can't be at the games, we certainly understand. But we have some of the best people in the world in this community, and I'm fortunate to be the coach of the Blue Jays.
It's interesting hearing you speak about the great fan base, and I agree. As an opposing coach coming in, they were as good as it gets, and also as a broadcaster coming in, just their love, their appreciation, and as you mentioned, the consistency of that support, independent of whether you're having a great season or it's a more challenging season, you can always count on their support. Kind of that sixth man aspect, which is so important for young people in terms of that energy that fans can create and the hostile environment that court also becomes for opposing teams to deal with. Is there an element, if you go back to your first year at Creighton coming in, and you are a historian, playing for an Eldon Miller, you got an appreciation for old school basketball, like myself, starting my career under a Coach Katie with the Boilermakers. Is there an element that surprised you, even though you had a sense for the great history, obviously, of the program and what Coach Altman did, and going back to Eddie Sutton and, players like Paul Silas? I mean, it's pretty remarkable, the history of the program. But is there an aspect that's kind of surprised you, or something you didn't anticipate now looking back, having been there for a good run?
Yeah, and I had the benefit of the experience of coaching at Northern Iowa and bringing my teams to Creighton and competing against Coach Altman, and I knew basketball was important here from the outside looking in. I had no idea, what it was like, the quality of the education and the quality of the people in this community that support us. And, I remember saying many times during my time in the Missouri Valley Conference, like, we're a Sweet 16 away from the story of Creighton being told nationally. We've got to get there so people understand what a really hidden gem this is in the middle of the country and what a basketball crazed community this is. And, fortunately, our move to the Big East has allowed that story to be told, and that's been fun. It's been fun for me to, having to wear, Creighton basketball around this logo, and now you just walk through the airport with the logo and people know it's Creighton. I think our image has changed over the course of the last 10 years, and certainly a lot of that credit goes to the work that Coach Altman did before we arrived here. We just kind of took that baton, as you said, and tried to build upon the great success that he already had. But it's fun to see that Creighton is known not all over the United States now, and now internationally with some of the kids that we've been able to recruit from over there. So it's been a lot of fun. We're fortunate to be in a place like this, and I really think if there's a community that can get through these tough times, I think it's our community because we're made up of a lot of people that have their neighbors' back, and more than ever in our world today, we really need that.
Yeah, well, I look forward to that virtual dollar beer night. I think that's our next kind of priority.
We will. That'll give us something to do.
Yeah.
Late at night when you're sipping on your Japanese whiskey, we can, you have some of your best thoughts at that particular point in time.
Yeah, I mean, I want you to focus on preparing the team for the season, clearly, and obviously your responsibilities as a husband and a father to a family. But after those two, I'm thinking maybe the virtual dollar beer nights board. And I'm going to be in Charlotte, North Carolina for most of November, December, as we do some games and even some hits in studio, but from Charlotte. So I'll have a little more time on my hands during that month. It's a quarantine of sorts for me. So I expect you to keep in touch and pepper me with some ideas. And when you're busy, just have Berger or Rasmus and get with me on some we can do some conference calls or some Zoom calls.
We will get on that. Here's to you, my friend.
Cheers.
Thank you very much. Always great to catch up and appreciate you.
Likewise. Let it fly.
We have a top 5 fan base in the country, and you know they're with us when we're down and when we're up. So, you know, they're very loyal fans, and you know specifically that Seton Hall game was huge. You know, we needed that crowd, you know, the entire game, and you know to bring it home was awesome, and I'll never forget that moment.
The last game was unbelievable. The atmosphere and kind of the feel inside the arena and the energy that the people brought. I mean, it was unbelievable. And that's a credit to our fans. I mean, they do a good job of bringing it every night.
You know, there's no reason for us not to have a positive and, you know, motivated mentality. You know, I think we can go further than last year. You know, I think last year, you know, we got cut short. So I think this year, you know, although we have a lot, you know, to work on, but I trust Coach Mack and our staff to, you know, put ourselves in position to be successful. And, you know, all we got to do is work, you know, be a good team, and, you know, support one another, and, you know, good things will happen.
6 months ago, we didn't know if we'd be back on campus this fall, and Creighton's done a good job of getting all the students back. Personally, this is my senior year, and I kind of want to finish playing as many games as I can. And obviously, some obstacles might come up, some bumps in the road might come up that we are not really planned for, because it changes day to day, and it's hard to be planned for what's coming in the future. So, kind of just have to take it a day at a time and just stay focused on the grind and get better day to day.
You know, this building is where I spend most of my time, and, you know, getting on the court, getting in the weight room, getting in the academic building, and it's huge. You know, I think it's one of the best, you know, facilities in the country. You know, it was also another reason why I wanted to come here, because I knew I would be able to, you know, build my basketball skills, build my academic skills.
There's a lot of time that I'm spent off the court just working in the weight room and the training room. I couldn't tell you how many hours I've spent in there, but it's probably I've probably spent more hours in there than on a basketball court in my entire career.
The donors, obviously, this isn't a thing without them, and I mean, we have names all over the arena, and we have the donors downstairs on the plaques, which is cool. Just that they give contributions to us for us to have a building like this, and it gives us unbelievable services. I mean, we bring in food after practices just to kind of refuel. We have the training room downstairs right under us, and then it goes right into the weight room, and then we have the cold and hot tub and the underwater treadmill for injury purposes. So it's all in one area, and then at the end of the day, when you have to go to study hall, you just come upstairs.
We've got some amazing equipment in here. We got a new machine called Delos that has really helped with my proprioceptive work, allowing me to use my body without having to actually think about it. And then the weight room is just a big help too.
Strength and conditioning is huge, especially in the Big East. Like, you play against a lot of strong physical opponents. It's a little bit different than the Missouri Valley. So I think bringing in who we have now in Coach Anderson is just doing an unbelievable job of just kind of preparing our bodies and preparing our kind of endurance and longevity of finishing games and helping us out from a physical standpoint.
Jeremy has brought a lot for us, helping out. Like, I'll get individual work sessions with him on the Delos machine that we have. He'll get in some table work, you know, really try to help take care of our bodies and kind of maintain it. And I've needed a lot of that, especially with all the knee injuries I've had, and it's helped me to get into the position that I'm in today.
Without him, you know, I wouldn't be the player I am today. He's been awesome. You know, I don't have words to explain how great he's been to not only me, but our, you know, the entire program. And it's just beginning for him and his impact on the program. I think, it's all of our coaches, from top to bottom on the coaching staff. They're all, they're all just, real good people, not only on the floor but off the floor. They care about, how you're feeling, They ask if you want to go get lunch or anything, they've always been there for me, even when I was going through stuff with my knee. They all took care of me when I was up here alone, and I'll never forget that.
The minute I step on campus and the minute anybody steps on campus, Creighton's done an unbelievable job of just branding their university and their basketball brand. It's huge. So it's deeper than just watching the team play basketball. Like a lot of teams in the country, you just watch the guys, you don't really know them. But here, I feel like the boosters and the fan base really get to know us, and we get to know them. Plus, the brand of basketball we play is it's free flowing. Mac puts all of his trust in us, and when you have a coach that really buys into what the guys on the floor are doing and isn't trying to control your every movement, it's really a fun way to play. Like if you watch our games, I mean, we're just out there on the playground having fun.
To the donors and all the supporters, I just want to say thank you, and me and the entire team, the entire staff, really appreciate you guys. Whatever happens with this season, whether fans are allowed or not, we'll play our heart out for you guys, and we hope to see you guys at the games. This entire time right now is just temporary. Once we get past this, it'll all be worth it. But as of right now, we're working hard for you guys, and we appreciate you guys forever.
Now I'd like to introduce Michaela Smith, one of our longtime and most enthusiastic boosters and fans, and even more importantly, a great friend to me and many others in our department. Take it away, Michaela.
The Blue Jays mean to me, almost everything. They're my family. They talk about the Creighton family. When you talk about Creighton family, it's a true statement. I think you really learn who they are, and they learn who you are, and they really unite as a group. I do have a lot of memories from traveling with the Blue Jays. I've been to the Cayman Islands, I've been to the Virgin Islands, I've gone to the Big East tournament since they've been in the Big East every year. You become very close to them. You might be walking, running on the beach, and here they come, and they're right next to you talking to you. So it's a unique situation. It's important to support the men's basketball team through the pandemic because, as I said, the rug got pulled out from under them. Everything was going wonderful, and then all of a sudden, they leave New York City, and they've got to go back home. So their whole world was turned upside down, and they didn't know, and still really don't know for how long.
Tell the audience what it means to you to be honored as J-Backer of the Year.
I didn't know that.
Michaela, hey. We are so thrilled to present you, our #1 fan, as J-Backer of the Year. It's been so cool to see the impact you and your late husband Roy have had on so many Blue Jay student athletes over the past decades and the difference you've made in their lives. And it's especially been inspiring to see the difference you've made for our men's basketball program and what can happen when just one donor shares our vision for the program. So congratulations. This is for you.
Thank you.
No problem. We're also thankful to all of you, our season ticket holders and J-Backers, for your patience and continued support as we navigate this truly unique season. We understand it's a partnership. We couldn't do this without you, and we hope and we count on hopefully your continued support as we go through this season. With that, we're going to turn it back over to Bruce for the athletic director's update.
After listening to Coach McDermott and Coach Lavin, how can you not be excited about this year's team? However, for many of you, the cheering will have to take place at home. We are continuing to review plans for limited attendance at our men's home basketball games at the CHI Arena, but initially we will have very limited seating, if any, available to our fans. It is our hope that as the season progresses and we become more comfortable with the protocols necessary to protect the health and safety of our student athletes, staff, and fans, that we will be able to gradually expand attendance at our home games. Coach Mack and the team know that if you are not there in person, you will be there in spirit. We will not be having a season ticket program for 2020-21. With this news, I also have a humble request. I know that the pandemic has impacted all of us in various ways. However, I hope that you will consider donating a portion or all of your season ticket payment to Creighton Athletics as a charitable gift. Any season ticket payment converted to a charitable gift is 100% tax deductible. We continue to monitor the pandemic and its potential impact on what it means for college basketball. We certainly have many more questions than answers. Yogi Berra said, "When you come to a fork in the road, take it." I have compared trying to find the proper direction we need to take to attempting to hit a target that is 100 yards away with a slingshot while riding a roller coaster. As you know, men's basketball revenue comprises the majority of our overall athletics department revenue, and we cannot operate our Division I athletics program without it. This year, we also have additional costs due to the various expenses associated with health and safety guidelines and student-athlete welfare. These costs include frequent COVID-19 testing for our nearly 300 student-athletes and increased costs associated with building and facility maintenance and sanitation. Creighton Athletics has already made over $4 million in budget cuts in travel, furloughs, frozen pay, reduced benefits, delaying some projects, amongst many other cuts. We have sharpened our expense budgets dramatically, reducing the $12 million potential revenue loss to an $8 million funding gap. We need your help now more than ever. You received an email on Monday, November 9th, launching the Bluejays Persevere Fund. As season ticket holders and J-backers, we ask for your partnership to help us respond to the fiscal challenges of COVID-19. If you have not already done so, please take time to review the information, as tomorrow you will be receiving an email requiring you to take action and select an option. We understand the challenges everyone is currently facing. We simply ask, if possible, to support us by choosing the donation option most feasible for your family. Please consider selecting option 1 to convert your J-backer season ticket revenue payments into a 100% tax-deductible donation. By selecting option 1, you will make an immediate impact by helping us sustain the level of success that we have achieved together. Thank you again for your unwavering support of Creighton basketball. While I wish we were together today and this fall, we feel your presence and support and hope to possibly see you at some point this season. We have always believed that college athletics is an example of good in our world. Great teams demonstrate a love for the game and a love for their teammates, a willingness to play a role for the betterment of the team, an understanding that everyone on the team is important, a knowledge that by improving the condition of one, they improve the condition of all. Things that are also true in great families, businesses, and communities. We can do so much more individually and as a member of a team than we thought we could. We often underestimate the power one life can have on others. We somehow believe that our ability to have an impact on others is insignificant. After all, what can one person do? However, I believe there are no barriers, not age, not race, not gender, not money, not illness, not pandemic, not anything. There are no barriers if love is strong enough. We have stood on your shoulders for generations with your support and your love for Creighton Athletics. We are again asking for your help. The patience, the compassion, and commitment of each of you has been inspiring to our athletics department during these unprecedented times. The business of college athletics, as we knew it, cannot be recovered. It will need to be reinvented. Again, to quote the great Yogi Berra, "The future ain't what it used to be." While we certainly will be different post-pandemic, we will have the opportunity to improve our mission with your help. Thank you.
I have one more thing. Since I am the J-Backer of the Year award, go Blue Jays!